Welcome back to the channel. Today we're about to react to a video learning a little bit about the housing coordinator for Central Massachusetts. But before we start the video, I want you to check out my second YouTube channel titled See My Power. It's the men's version to this YouTube channel. There will be a link in the description box below. Help me get this video to 500 likes. As always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska. And today I have a new guest who I am going to let introduce herself because we know that I will not do well in pronouncing her name. Welcome, guest. Would you introduce yourself?
Trust me, you would. I mean, you took a good bet on that earlier. My name is Wairimu Macharia, but as I told you earlier, you can call me Nemo. I am housing coordination mediator. Sorry, my background is in peace and conflict resolution, and I'm currently doing housing mediation with Family Services of Central Massachusetts.
Mimu, peace and conflict resolution. Tell us a little bit about that.
So as I said, that's my background. So my general qualifications is international relations. So for my master's, I did a concentration on peace and conflict resolution, and probably by the time I'm talking more about myself, that I actually got my degree from here before going back to Kenya. So peace and conflict was very dear to me because by then I grew up in areas with lots of conflict, and I found a need to be that solution. I was very eager to take my social status to a professional level, because even before college I was always this person trying to make peace out of any situation. So that's what I have my qualifications in, and mostly very passionate about community dialogues and conversations around that.
Wow. So you're, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're from Kenya?
Yes, I am from Kenya.
And how long have you been in the United States? And you said you got your degree here, so I'm
Yes.
assuming it's someplace here in Worcester.
No, actually not here in Worcester. So this is the interesting bit. I consider myself a returnee. So I came here for school when in my 20s. That was between 2004 and 2010. So I came here for school. I was in San Diego, California.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I was in the United States University in Kenya. So I transferred to the sister campus in San Diego. So after my qualifications, I went back home in 2010 to now. That's where my expertise now I felt was needed most, because that was the area that I was familiar with and the conflict going on there. So then I recently came back and with my children. Now I'm a mother, and we came back end of 2019, just prior to the pandemic.
Wow.
So we came back here to settle now here, because with now my experience and expertise, I felt I was now in a position to now come back, because I had that leeway to either be in Kenya or be here.
So the first time you came to the United States was the West Coast. Now you're here on the East Coast. I would imagine that's a very different experience.
It is very different. But prior to that, my family lived here, but I was going to school in San Diego. So I had holidays that I would come back here, but I would still find it very strange because.
Have you ever migrated from one side of the world to the other side, or just within America? And also tell me, what's the differences between those different areas?
Just remember my orientation to the United States, so San Diego, California.
Right.
So it's very different, but I'm glad I got that exposure, because even when coming back, I could still make an informed decision on where to settle. So I still came back to Worcester.
Wow. So tell us about what you do. for family service. I believe you said the housing coordinator.
Yes.
So tell us about what you do, and again, how you bring your background in peace and conflict resolution into that arena.
All right. So with Family Services of Central Mass, I'm in the mediation department. So in the mediation department, we have the small claims department, like that's the court department, and then there's the housing mediation. So there's normally a training, and I onboarded Family Services of Central Mass as I took up their training. They normally have sponsorships as well, so I was one of the recipients, and after that started volunteering for them. It's in the volunteer phase that actually someone is able to have to be floated around in all these mediation scenarios, and as time goes by, you get to know probably where your heart or your expertise falls in. Okay. So that's why I'm in the housing coordinator position right now. I was hired after that process, just initially as a student. So right now, what it entails is basically preserving tenancy, so landlord-tenancy conflicts, out of court, of course, trying to use alternative dispute resolutions out of court. I mean, and that's where, with my background in peace and conflict, it comes in because we provide the community with a platform that's more laid back, and I normally call it's like a humanitarian platform where it's not a win-win situation, because besides that tenancy, besides that being a landlord, there's also the humanitarian. We'll always be human beings. Creating harmony is better than a win-win or lose-lose situation. So that's what we basically do at the housing mediation program, where we just try to provide a platform where two human beings can be able to talk and discuss and come up with an agreement mutually, voluntarily. And of course, we at the same time, we try to be very confidential about the process.
I'm a lawyer, but landlord and tenant issues were a specialty that I did not specialize in. But I'm thinking your description of humanitarian. So a landlord is a person, yes. A tenant is a person.
Yes.
They have differing objectives. The landlord is renting space to a tenant for money, and the tenant is living in that space and paying money to live in a habitable space. You can see where, when there are human beings involved, there can be a dispute about from the landlord. If the tenant says, "I'm not going to pay you,"
tell me in the comments, in what situations would it be best for two humans or more to possibly sit down and just have a reasonable discussion where they work out, their anticipations or animosity, anger, and it would actually work out great. Let me know in the comments.
Because the faucet is broken, or I don't have heat, and you can see where the tenant can say, my children are cold in this house, so I'm not going to pay you. So automatically there's conflict.
Yes. Yes.
Automatically there's conflict.
Yes.
Is it, and you said this is an alternative, is it a hard sell for landlords to consider mediation as opposed to a tenant considering mediation? And then again, I'm not trying to test you or trick you, but I would think that a tenant would be appreciative of some muscle. In other words, they're not going it alone against a landlord who may own lots of properties,
yeah.
And just considers, well, I get rid of you, tenant, and then I just put somebody else in there who's not going to complain or who's going to pay me. So are those the types of issues that are prevalent in what you do
in our department? So I'll create a couple of, I'll break it down this way. First of all, remember there's the pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, where we're sitting, a lot had to be considered post-pandemic because so many tenants and even landlords were affected.
No money.
Yes. And again, there's conflict and there's business. And there's also now the humanitarian aspect. Because when you think about it, it's about having both parties that are in the conflict come to an agreement. And by the time you're coming to an agreement, it means you have put in a bit of empathy, you have understood each other, and you're getting a common ground where you can work together to come up with a solution, as opposed to I lost and I won kind of situation. So the reason I'm mentioning post-pandemic is because our program also with MOPC, which is Massachusetts Office of Public a little brain freeze there. MOPC.
MOPC.
So with we have a funder, MOPC, and this was also following Governor Baker's initiative post the pandemic, where there was funds available to help both the tenant and the landlord. Yes, there's an issue of tenant preserving tenancy, but remember there's also an issue of landlords also being able to feed their families. So it's exactly. So the same way a tenant has rights, the landlord has rights as well. So with mediation, it is a space where now, rights considered, yes, but rights aside, what can we work around so that we can both be fair to each other? And at times people say fair is relative. I agree, because situations are different. So in this particular case, we work with also some agencies that the Department of Housing Coordination came up with, DCHD, where they provided a platform that us as mediators are also working with agencies that help with funding. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because this is a fund that's available, and we do have a lot of mediation to make sure that not only are the tenants or landlords getting these funds, but there's also a due process that can talk about, okay, we get the funds, then what next? Because at times with the tenant, with these funds, they're called the raft funds, at times there's a concern of, okay, you pay the arrears and then what next? So it's also a good space in mediation to discuss such alluring issues, so that it's not like us, the landlords against the tenants, or the tenants against the landlords. It's just about getting fair ground where there's an understanding that is mostly not available when it comes to the courts. Right, yeah.
Where there's a winner and a loser, or it appears there's a winner or a loser.
Exactly. So that's how we come in, and we will mostly get our referrals from these agencies. Right at the moment, we are working closely with CMHA, which is the Central Massachusetts Housing Authority, and we are also working closely with RCAP. Those are the two main agencies, but also there's self-referrals where you can see you have conflict with your landlord. They will still, we will still get sourced out for that, and we accommodate self-referrals as well.
How do people find out about what the housing issue? In other words, are they referred from these, from, you had mentioned RAFT or RCAP? Or,
yes.
Are they referred? Do you find that the tenants in particular are somewhat afraid because they're afraid they're going to be punished for speaking up, or they're going to be evicted. Can you comment on that?
So at the moment, for a case to get to us for mediation, it means they've already received an eviction notice,
Okay.
right? And now we come in between the time that you get the eviction notice to before it gets to court. Because remember, even in the courthouses, there is a court mediation process. And more often than not, we'll find some cases that have already, because of there's also a process between applying and by the time you get to the mediation, they might already have gotten a court date. So
Let me know in the comments, do you think there was ever a time in your life where you could have used her skills or her presence during a situation?
it's entirely up to the parties. Remember, and maybe I can just mention the principles of mediation.
Please.
It is very voluntary. It is confidential. It also requires self-determination from both parties. And by this, I mean both the landlord and the tenancy, regardless of who has brought the case to us first, whether it's the landlord or the tenant or the housing agency. We have to confirm an interest of participation from both parties so that they are aware it's voluntary. And the reason why it's important to reiterate is because by the time you're coming to the mediation, then that means you're willing to find a solution. You're willing to find a solution out of court. You're willing to take up alternative dispute resolutions. So when that is understood, then that takes away that element of fear. And again, I'll go back to me, like tenant against landlord or landlord against tenant. So the only if one party is not willing and does not consider that as a process that's beneficial to them, then we cannot go ahead with that mediation. So already the intake process of mediation already gives that, for lack of a better word, level ground for both parties to understand you're here voluntarily. You're here because you have there's self-determination that we want to solve this. Or also we are here because we are feeling like we are better off discussing an issue with a platform provided for us, because maybe they have tried it in the past on their own, but now mediation is a viable option. So that said and done, I think I've answered your question as far as the barriers that seem to be there initially. Just the intake process kind of breaks that down. And also as mediators, also, we are very neutral. So there is no given time that regardless of the situation that comes in at hand, that you will take sides or you will give an indication to either the landlord or the tenant that we understand you better than we understand them. So that also creates that environment to see, oh, we are both being heard equally, and we now have a chance to, speak with each other and not necessarily to each other. So the basic principles and processes of mediation also create that platform to be able to break those barriers of fear, or I'm not going to be heard. And again, we are in a community that we have resources, because I don't want to create an idea that everything that comes to mediation is all glory and hooray, we've solved it. We also have the mechanisms to know that we can retry, because mediation is also very fluid. It could take more than one mediation to come up with a solution. Or it may take us knowing that, okay, this is now not our area, but we have a resource for that. So basically that breaks, those little corners that people might be put into out of lack of, out of not having good relations in the past, or lack of money, not being able to pay your rent on time. I believe mediation is that place that now makes you exhale and now, like, okay, let's try this again.
You're making me smile because pre-pandemic, I took the basic mediation course, and again, I'm a lawyer, so I was struck by the contrast with the legal system and the perception of the public,
Yes.
and again of lawyers, that there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, that you want to hire the best that money can buy as a lawyer, because
Is there ever a situation where both people can win?
you want to like whack your opponent over the head.
Yes.
And mediation is not that. Mediation, as you're saying, it's a level playing field. It's neutral. People
Yes.
are neutral. You have your opportunity to speak, and and again, having gone through the process, everybody gets their turn, but not just to hold sway and to take over. People are then brought back together again, and they're taught to listen to what the other person is saying, not just get up on their soapbox and then say, well, I do this and I do that, and I'm important, and I'm in charge, and you're lowly and you're nothing, and again, it gives people it's a different model that I think is much more it's much more beneficial. That you use that word, much more beneficial, because it allows human beings to interact.
Exactly.
And not and be persuaded or be convinced, or to see, all right, well, I may have something that I said that's persuasive, but on the other hand, I can see that that this is, I'm not as lily fresh as it would appear in the way that I've constructed my story.
Exactly. And there's also chances are very high of eye-opening instances in mediation. And by that I mean, when in the court process, you're there to like state facts and move on. In mediation, because of the platform for listening to each other, there's a lot of aha moments in that particular setting, because now if it's the landlord, they're like, oh my, I did not know that. I did not see that.
Right.
And the same to the tenant. Oh, wow, now I understand this better. And it's a fulfilling moment. And the mediation field, I believe, is a field that it's there, but it also needs to have more emphasis, because it's a platform that's honestly very vital to remember. Conflict is there constantly. It is there constantly. So this platform, for me, is I always consider it as a chance to go through a conflict and still maintain a connection.
Right.
Which is something that mostly alternative dispute resolution routes take. The core is to preserve those connections. Yeah.
Well, it also, and you used the word humanitarian. It also is encouraging communication, not the best that money can buy, and not if there are lawyers involved or parties involved, one may be more glib at and more persuasive or more convincing than the other. But it's not based upon the situation. It's based upon you hired somebody who's concocted a good story, and the other person is at a disadvantage because they didn't hire a person and they can't advocate for themselves. So it's also advocacy, it's awareness, it's communication amongst people, and utilizing those skills which I would imagine, given what little I know about you, that probably was what, peace and conflict resolution, is that what appealed to you, that yeah, you can, you can acquire this information and you can know about it, but you need to put it to work, and putting it to work involves human interaction.
Sure. And for me, the highlight is giving people the space and platform to come up with their own solutions, as opposed to giving them the solutions.
Yeah.
Now, let's be honest, during times when people are angry, a lot of people need a lot of space. Go walk in, get out their head, stuff like that. How much space do you need to calm down during those moments?
And mediation is all about that, because we are neutral as mediators.
Right.
We're not going to give suggestions or ideas as to how neither the conversation nor the mediated agreement is going to go. But we are there to facilitate your conversation. So from the word go, it's more of, okay, now we're here. We have to make this work, because no one is going to make it work for us. Do we want to use this time to come up with a solution? Yes. And remember, the process, the mediation process is free, simply because we get a grant to do that. It's a community resource that is there, that is not being charged. Of course, as I said, it's a mediation program. There's some instances where there might be consideration of a sliding scale fee, but in housing, you're not being charged, and it's a resource that's very beneficial to the community to know that they have this. It's like an accessory. You have this accessory with you that you will help you make life better for you, and not just for you, for your neighbor. And just come up with your own solution. Take ownership of your issue and take ownership of your solution. I'm very passionate about just the fact that at times we have a tendency, even as organizations in the social work field, to maybe give blanket remedies according to our professionalism or what we have studied, or according to the books. But we forget that there's some really grassroots issues that no book can account for, because it's a daily process, it's daily living for these people. So any platform that can be used to have people come up with own solutions, and that's what mediation does, should be on top of the list for any social work out there.
And you're talking about empowerment.
Exactly. Exactly.
We are running short of time. I'd like you to do two things. One, tell people how they could get in touch with you, and talk a little bit about, there's a basic mediation course coming up. So do those things to wrap up, please.
Okay, so with Family Services of Central Mass, we normally have a training that's once a year. It's upcoming in April, and this is going to be a 36-hour training. For more details, we have a flyer on our website, which is the Family Services of Central Mass. But I'd like to reiterate, as much as Family Services of Central Mass has been around for over 130 years, we got affiliated with Seven Hills, so you will find us under Seven Hills. Also, for the email to reach us so that you can get more information about us, you can reach us on mediation@fscm.org. And just a little bit more about the training. It's going to be for 30, as I mentioned earlier, it's a 36-hour, 32-hour in class, 4 hours on your own, and I'll be more than happy to give more information on via email. But also you can reach me on 508 762 7835. It's been an amazing opportunity to, to talk about mediation, which is really our core, and, I would call it reaching our outreach mechanism to be able to, to provide a platform for creating peace and conflict in the community.
I can't add any more than that. Thank you so much, Mimo.
Thank you. Yes, that's okay. Mimo is okay.
for being my guest today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have two things to say. First off, have you ever been a mediator between a conflict between two people? Let me know, how did that work out and what was the whole situation about? Number two, the information that she has that was plastered across the screen, I will make sure that is in the link in the description box below, just in case you need to contact her or get any more information that's needed. But as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.